create a host of little stars. Nala.
So wait a second, you're telling me that Scar tried to get with Nala? My whole life is a lie. Everyone loves a good Disney movie, but there are some dark Disney theories that could literally change these movies forever. And some of them might actually blow your mind. So stick around until the end of the video to see them all. The first theory we're gonna start with is Encanto, which happens to be one of the most beautiful animations in recent years. But there's a theory out there that states that Mirabel actually has reality bending powers. It is stated that she can alter reality to fit exactly what she likes. It is suggested that as Mirabel was walking up to the door, she feared not having a power so much that with her newfound reality bending powers, made a world where she had no power. And everyone around her was just trapped into the roles that she imagined they would be. This theory certainly puts a dark twist on a beautiful film, but do we believe it to be true? Now, this next theory comes out of the world of Lion King, which is probably most people's favorite Disney movie of all time. And if you ask anyone on the street, one of the saddest scenes in movie history is when Mufasa dies. But later on in the film, there's a time when Scar is talking and he actually brings up a skull. And the theory goes that this is Mufasa's skull. It does add a dark twist to a very nice story. And if you do more research into what this could be, it actually does look more like a baboon skull. But do I put it past Scar to have some creepy obsession with his brother and to keep his skull as a trophy? No. No, I do not. Now, we all know the story of Nemo, a little clownfish who gets taken away and whose father must venture across the ocean to get him back. Well, what if this story isn't really about Nemo at all? If you go back to the beginning of the movie, Nemo's mother ends up dying by the barracuda. I hate that barracuda. But there is a theory about what happens there that changes the entire movie. The theory suggests that there are no survivors of the barracuda attack on this family, and that Marlin's vision of Nemo, which quite literally means nobody in Latin, is just a manifestation of his grief. And if you really deep dive into the story, it proves itself even further when you tie Marlin's journey across the ocean to the 5 stages of grief. And this theory quite literally puts a depressing factor on an overall amazing Pixar movie. I just can't watch it the same now. Now, as we get older, we come to realize that Peter Pan was a pretty questionable character. In fact, many see Peter, as we know him, to be the villain, which in turn completely changed the way we look at Captain Hook. There's actually a theory that paints Hook to be the true hero, suggesting that he is on a mission to prevent Peter from kidnapping innocent children. And this idea is actually somewhat believable. In fact, you'll notice that throughout the movie, Hook never goes after the children. It's always just Peter. And it also suggests that Hook's pirates are actually children who Hook has saved from Peter Pan. Could Captain Hook actually be the good guy? But we're not done with Peter Pan just yet, because there's another theory that a lot of people believe to be true. And this one in particular links Peter Pan to the Little Mermaid. This theory states that Captain Hook, in fact, is the one who killed Ariel's mother. Not only do we see the mermaids in Peter Pan visibly scared of Hook, suggesting that he has a bad reputation amongst the mermaids, but one of them definitely resembles Ariel. And in the prequel to The Little Mermaid, we find out that Ariel's mother was indeed killed by pirates, which led many to believe that the Peter Pan and Little Mermaid universes are the same. And Hook was responsible for Ariel's mother's death. Now let's move on to the world of Frozen, because this one absolutely scarred me for life. This particular grim theory is one that concerns and kind of ruins the wonderful relationship and friendship between Kristoff and Sven. The theory states that Kristoff's coat is made from fur. And if you take a closer look at the movie while you're watching it, the fur does seem to be reindeers. The ice harvesters that raised Kristoff would have killed Sven's mother and left baby Sven for Kristoff to care for, giving Kristoff a pelt to wear. This would also suggest why Sven actually trusts Kristoff, because Kristoff would essentially smell just like his mother. There might actually be a connection to Moana in Lilo and Stitch. Pudge is Lilo's imaginary fish friend that she brings sandwiches to every week. And when asked why she continues to feed him, she responds with one simple explanation: Pudge controls the weather. Well, this theory proposes that Pudge is actually Maui, who has taken the form of a fish. The question we must ask is, why would Maui return weekly to see Lilo? In Lilo and Stitch, Lilo lives with her sister who raises and takes care of her. This is because their parents died in a car crash during a rainstorm sometime time before the events of Lilo and Stitch. Well, this theory continues to state that the demigod Maui decided to create a brutal rainstorm which accidentally killed Lilo's parents. Lilo eventually finds Maui, who takes the form of Pudge the fish, and realizes that Pudge is responsible for the death of her parents. Now, Snow White is a story known to most of us, but there's one understanding of the prince that changes the entire movie. The idea is that the prince is not actually real and is instead a representation of death. The theory states that at the start of the movie, Death appears at the wall when Snow White gets too close to the edge of the well. Her fleeing back to the castle is actually her escaping death. The various appearances of the prince at specific moments seem to back up these claims, and it seems that while a poisoned Snow White lies in her coffin, she is waiting for her soul to be released. When the prince, or Death, kisses Snow White, he takes her soul to heaven, which is represented by the kingdom in the sky that we see them standing under at the end of the film. Wreck-It Ralph was one of those movies that changed the generation, but a detail in the movie actually makes one character's backstory even more harrowing than we first thought. You remember the character Calhoun from the Hero's Duty game? Well, the tragic story she retells about her husband being eaten by a cybug is actually even darker than we first thought. Throughout the movie, we learn that cybugs morph into whatever they eat. This happens with Ralph's laser gun, and it happens again with King Candy. A poor Calhoun must have had to immediately shoot the cybug that had just eaten her husband as the creature was morphing into the image of him. Oh my god. Monsters, Inc. I actually have a theory that could be very, very dark, and it regards the fate of one of our favorite Disney characters, Sully. We know that in the Monsters, Inc. world, the monsters are terrified of humans, and Randall himself says what he thinks humans do to monsters. Well, take a look at this image from Partysaurus Rex, because what we're seeing is a result of a door that shouldn't have been opened. So what if I told you I can make a movie that's already sad even sadder? Well, there's a theory about the movie Up that quite literally does just that. It's suggested that the night after he gets the offer on his house, Carl dies. From then on, we see him rising up to the afterworld, shown by the whole Blue House flight, and Russell acts as his guardian angel. This theory goes on to say that the house represents Carl's attachment to the real world, and reaching Paradise Falls is Carl's perceived crossing over to reunite with Ellie in heaven. And there you have it. There are some theories that are so dark that they probably will just ruin your childhood forever. Yeah, I'm gonna go cry now.